naira at the official foreign exchange market. This is according to data published on the Central Bank of Nigeria's website on Monday, marking a modest but notable gain for the local currency as it begins a new month amid signs of improved market alignment and relatively stronger buffers compared with the same period last year. The Naira's latest performance reflects a slight strengthening from its position at the end of January and highlights a narrowing gap between the official and parallel market, a key indicator closely monitored by market participants and policymakers. The official foreign exchange market showed a firmer Naira position at the start of February 2026 compared with recent trading sessions and the same period last year. And moving on, Nigeria's manufacturing sector expanded more slowly in January 2026 as rising costs, weak demand, and structural challenges hit chemicals, pharmaceuticals, plastics, and rubber sectors hardest. The slowdown was revealed in the latest NESG Stanbic IBTC Business Confidence Monitor, which showed that while overall business conditions remained in expansion territory, momentum weakened noticeably. The current business performance index fell to 105.8 points in January from 112.0 points in December 2025, marking its lowest level in 6 months, though slightly above 105.7 points recorded in January 2025. The BCM report points to uneven sectoral performance, with non-manufacturing activities sustaining growth even as manufacturing and trade faced headwinds. Rising operational costs, weak post-festive demand, and broader infrastructural constraints continue to dampen investor confidence across key sectors. And still on, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed all government ministries, departments, and agencies to use existing laws to make the sharing of electricity costs among the federal, state, and local government more practical and transparent. Starting with the 2026 budget of preparations, the president wants to ensure that the heavy burden of electricity subsidies is not left solely to the federal government. This new direction was revealed on Monday in Abuja by Tanimu Yakubu, the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation. During a training session for government officials, they explained that if any level of government decides to reduce electricity prices for its people, that government must clearly show how it will pay for it. In his words, if any tier of government chooses affordability interventions, the funding responsibilities must be clear, agreed, and enforceable, adding that the new way of sharing the financial load is a move toward fairness. And coming up, food prices eased in November 2025, and this is according to NBS. Paper economy to expand 10.2%. Well, this and more after the break. Do stay with us.
Information is everywhere, but insights, that is rare. BusinessDay Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. BusinessDay Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond.
From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you, we go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture.
Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Morning.
The National Bureau of Statistics says prices of major food items including rice, beans, garri, tomatoes, and onions fell slightly in November 2025. The NBS revealed this in a selected Food Prices Watch report for November 2025 released in Abuja on Monday. According to the report, the average price of 1 kg of local rice, dropped by 5% year-on-year to 1,861.95 in November 2025. On a month-on-month basis, the price of rice also decreased by 2.71% from 1,913.78 naira recorded in October 2025. State-level analysis show that Kogi recorded the highest rice price at 2,159.9 naira, while Bauchi posted the lowest at 1,237.81. Away from the story, rising cost of operations slowed Nigeria's business expansion in January 2026 as new tax reforms, fuel price adjustments, and persistent inflationary pressures strained firms across key sectors. According to the latest business confidence monitor from the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, cost of doing business surged to 90.5 points in January from 54.7 points in December, while input prices rose to 96.9 points from 68.9 points. The report revealed that the January index declined to 105.8 points from 112.0 points in December 2025, its lowest level in 6 months, reflecting weakening activity across most sectors. Agriculture dropped to 99.5 points in January from 112.9 points in December, while trade fell sharply to 92.7 points from 123.8 points, pushing both sectors below the expansion threshold, offsetting continued growth in manufacturing and services. The report showed broad-based softening in business conditions with key sub-indices including general business situation, production, demand conditions, investment, financial conditions, supply orders, trade stockpiling, access to credit, and cash flow, all falling compared with December. And also, the United Arab Emirates has positioned Nigeria as a major destination for multi-billion-dollar investments spanning agriculture, technology, infrastructure, mining, and trade, with the country's Minister of Investment, Mohammed Suwaidi, admitting that Gulf capital is currently underexposed to Africa's largest economy. Suwaidi revealed this at the first Investopia Africa event held in Lagos on Monday, where discussions surrounded a wide range of opportunities that could translate into investment running from hundreds of millions to several billions of dollars, depending on sector readiness, regulatory clarity, and the availability of credible local partners. Suwaidi trashed the notion that trust was the primary barrier to deeper UAE-Nigeria investment ties, arguing instead that market understanding and partner identification were the real challenges. The minister stressed that private sector engagement would be central to unlocking deals, describing business-to-business interactions as more effective than government-led initiatives. To end the local news, People Democratic Party has scheduled its national convention for March 28 to 29, 2026, setting the stage for the election of a new national working committee after months of leadership disputes. The decision was announced in a communique issued at the end of party's 105th National Executive Committee meeting held on Monday in Abuja. The statement confirmed that the Abdul Rahman Mohammed-led National Caretaker Committee has assumed full control of the party's administration following recent court rulings. According to the communiqué, the convention is intended to resolve lingering internal crises, restoring stability to the opposition party. NEC also approved the timetable for congresses nationwide, with ward and local government congresses scheduled for February 2026 and state congresses set for March ahead of the national convention. And coming up, Ethiopia economy to expand 10.2% in 2025 to 2026, according to the Prime Minister. We bring you short news after this break. Do stay with us.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
You're still watching the Business Day television news update. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed revealed on Tuesday that Ethiopia's economy is forecast to expand 10.2% in 2025 to 26, higher than the Finances Ministry's projection of 8.9% given in June. Abiy told lawmakers that based on a review of the growth performance over the past 6 months of the current fiscal year, the plan has been revised to project that Ethiopia will record 10.2% growth by the end of the year. The East African nation, which is restructuring its external debt, is implementing far-reaching economic reforms backed by an International Monetary Fund loan program. And also, the South African rand rallied in early trade on Tuesday, helped by the bounce back in commodity prices, which has led it back below 16.0 rand dollar. According to reports, the rand traded at 15.90 against the dollar, about 1% stronger than its previous close. Gold and silver rose on Tuesday, rebounding from the steepest two-day drop in decades after Kevin Walsh was nominated as the next U.S. Federal Reserve chair, putting the brakes on the metal's record rally. Despite the historic pullback in gold and silver prices, analysts see the metal's bull run continuing and expected to notch up more record highs later this year. According to reports, South Africa's benchmark 2025 government bond was firm in early deals as the yield fell 7 basis points to 7.995%. And on the foreign scene, Elon Musk's SpaceX is combined with his artificial intelligence startup XAI in a deal that values the enlarged entity at $1.25 trillion. The transaction, which was confirmed in the statement published on SpaceX's website, underscores Musk's ambition to tightly integrate artificial intelligence, space technology, and global communications infrastructure under a single corporate umbrella. According to sources, the deal assigns a valuation of $1 trillion to SpaceX and $250 billion to XAI. The all-stock transaction was disclosed to employees in an internal memo earlier on Monday following a Bloomberg News report on the planned combination. XAI, which operates the Grok chatbot, is reported to be burning around $1 billion monthly as it races to compete with other global AI leaders. And also, Ukraine official Elon Musk's effort to stop Russia from using Starlink satellites for drone attacks have delivered real results, praising the SpaceX founder as a true champion of freedom and a true friend of the Ukrainian people. Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov said Musk had swiftly responded when he was told Russian drones with Starlink connectivity were operating in the country. The drones have been linked to a number of recent deadly attacks by Russia on Ukraine, including one on a moving passenger train which left 6 people dead. Starlink satellites operated by SpaceX provide high-speed internet around the world and has worked in Ukraine since the first day of Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. We bring you the sports news after this break. Do stay with us. And now to sport, Cristiano Ronaldo has reportedly gone on strike ahead of Al Nassr's Saudi Pro League clash with local rivals Al Riyadh on Monday amid growing frustration over the club's transfer policy. The 40-year-old Portuguese superstar, who reportedly earns around £488,000 per day, is said to be unhappy with how Saudi Arabia's public investment fund manages Al Nassr's finances compared to other state-backed clubs in the league. Al Nassr's matchday appearance without Ronaldo sparked widespread speculation after the 5-time Ballon d'Or winner was omitted from the squad, his first absence from a league matchday since May 2025. European reports now suggest his absence may be linked to an internal dispute rather than fitness concerns. Since Ronaldo's move to Riyadh in 2023, high-profile stars such as Benzema, Kalidou Koulibaly and Riyad Mahrez have joined rival Saudi clubs on lucrative deals. To end the news, Atletico Madrid have completed the signing of Nigerian forward Ademola Lookman from Atalanta in a deal worth an initial €35 million with a further €5 million in potential add-ons. Lookman reportedly signed a 4.5-year contract with Atletico, keeping him at the Riyadh Air Metropolitano until June 30, 2030. Atletico added that Lookman successfully passed his medical at the Vithas Invictum High Performance Sport Medicine Center at Arturo Soria University Hospital in Madrid before completing the formalities at the club's offices, where it was welcomed by Chief Executive Miguel Angel Gil. The 28-year-old had been heavily linked with a move to Turkish giant Fenerbahce during the transfer window, but negotiations between the clubs failed to produce an agreement. And this is where we wrap up the Business Day TV news update this afternoon. Remember to follow us across all our platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insights. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Many thanks for watching.
Information is everywhere. But insights, that is rare. Business Day Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. Business Day Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond.
From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you, we go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture.
Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Money.
We are not just showing off businesses, but telling the stories behind them. The hustle, the art, the orders, and the wins.
Startup Spotlight, showing every Monday on Business Day Television.
Welcome to the Triumph Against Odd podcast.
Most people go through their lives without knowing what their superpower is, right? But if you're lucky enough and determined enough to find your superpower before you get to a certain stage of your life, you will be incredibly successful.
Look, the first thing is you just decide not to look at the challenges, because if you do, it's going to end you.
The closest thing I think is that I had a deeply military background, which is a bit of a never say die background.
I saw an opportunity in non-interest banking, and I felt that the demand was there. There was pent-up demand for it. People were yearning for it, and I felt that if we did it properly, if we brought in professionalism into it, and if we brought in our experiences, our various experiences from various backgrounds into it, that it could succeed.
Very few people do that because very few people explore their superpowers. They just explore bread and butter issues. I need to eat, and
Yes, there will be challenges. This is a very difficult business environment. The government keeps working on how to make business easier.
The first problem to overcome is really just starting, right? We thought about this idea for over 2 years before we even took the first step.
You cannot ignore this country. No, and to be from here, I think is an incredible privilege. Nigeria will be ascendant in my lifetime.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
for many years we've talked about the need to, essentially diversify our revenue stream away from, the huge dependence on oil revenues. It looks like that is happening now. So that means that we're better protected when, you have these wide fluctuations in oil prices and all of that. So
But as you say, and I agree, that we should commend the government. At least revenues are not falling. There have been times in the past when we recorded drops in revenue. That's not the case today. We're seeing revenues actually going up.
Increasingly, we can see the developed countries focusing on renewable energy and so on and so forth, which means that in the long run, we must look for alternative sources to funding.
So the government says that crude oil theft has essentially come to an end.
We need to do more to ensure that we totally eliminate crude oil theft and start to think of how to boost production. But it's a good first step. I mean, by eliminating crude oil theft, it also creates an incentive for international oil companies to probably return and, start to take up more projects in the upstream industries.
Stay ahead with Business Day Mobile, your gateway to Nigeria's most trusted business news, market insights, and expert analysis. With a Business Day Mobile app, you enjoy more than just news. You gain a seamless, intuitive platform designed to keep you informed and empowered. From exclusive articles to in-depth market trends, the app delivers the stories that matter most. Why Business Day Mobile? For premium access, for a clean, responsive design, for smarter navigation, for customizable alerts, and for all-in-one business hub. Whether you're a business leader, investor, policymaker, or enthusiast, Business Day Mobile brings you closer to the insights shaping Nigeria's business landscape. Download today and put authoritative business journalism right at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Moses.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Moses.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
Meet Monica, your all-in-one financial solution. Convert crypto to Naira at juicy rates anytime, anywhere. Enjoy fast withdrawals straight to your bank. Buy airtime, data, and pay bills in seconds. No stress, no delays, just seamless transactions. Monica, the smarter way to move your money. Download now.
Okay now, dependable insurance. After God, you are the next insurance. See as the boys the Allah. All the ladies the Allah. Insure your car protection from accidents. Unforeseen loss, you can see them. Mistakes are meant to happen. If you don't jam the car, they'll jam yours. Will you beat them? Ah yes, you will get them arrested. Your plans for that day is affected. You waste your money, you waste energy. With AXA, you can be protected.
Get the protection that pays today. Call 0700 AXA Mansa to get a motor insurance that pays.
At Stanbic IBTC, we are here to help you grow with financing that helps you expand, expert knowledge across 20 African markets, trade solutions that open doors to 195 countries globally, and an online banking platform that works hard because with us, there's possible, then there's more. Visit www.stanbicibtcbank.com/business for more. Stanbic IBTC.
True strength. What defines it? The brilliance of a player? Or when a team comes together to win? A solo beat? Or the rhythm of many? The flair of one dancer? Or the art of a troupe? One distinct voice, or the beauty of the symphony. At FCMB Group, we build ecosystems, empower communities, and create the future. Because we believe it's not just one, but the power of the group that delivers the future we all desire. FCMB, the power of the group.
Welcome. Let's discuss leading through AI and technological disruption.
Technology has always changed how organizations operate. But the current wave, led by AI and automation, is changing something deeper. How leaders must think. The temptation is to treat AI as a technical project, something for IT or a task force or a vendor. But the most important questions are not technical. They are leadership questions. What work will still require distinctly human judgment? How will we redesign roles so that people are not competing with technology but amplified by it? What ethical lines will we not cross, even if crossing them appears profitable? How will we prepare our teams, not just with skills, but with the mindset required for constant change? You can delegate tools and implementation. You cannot delegate the values, the boundaries, and the direction. In my conversations with senior leaders, those who navigate technological disruption well do one thing consistently. They take time to think slowly about the long-term implications before acting quickly. They ask, how will this technology change the way our customers live, decide, and trust? How will it change the way our people experience work? What kind of organization are we becoming if we fully embrace this? AI will not replace leaders, but it will expose the difference between leaders who think deeply and those who simply react. In seasons like this, your task is not just to adopt new tools. It is to provide the kind of steady, thoughtful leadership that gives your people confidence in the future you are building together.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Moses.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that BusinessDay Television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Moses.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that BusinessDay Television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Moses.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shred of doubt.
Information is everywhere, but insights, that is rare. Business Day Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. Business Day Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond. From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you. We go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture. Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Money.
We are not just showing off businesses, but telling the stories behind them. The hustle, the art, the orders, and the wins.
Startup Spotlight, showing every Monday on Business Day television.
Welcome to the Triumph Against Odd podcast.
Most people go through their lives without knowing what their superpower is, right? But if you're lucky enough and determined enough to find your superpower before you get to a certain stage of your life, you will be incredibly successful.
Look, the first thing is you just decide not to look at the challenges, because if you do, it's going to end you.
The closest thing I think is that I had a deeply military background, which is a bit of a never say die background.
I saw an opportunity in non-interest banking, and I felt that the demand was there. There was pent-up demand for it. People were yearning for it, and I felt that if we did it properly, if we brought in professionalism into it, and if we brought in our experiences, our various experiences from various backgrounds into it, that it could succeed.
Very few people do that because very few people explore their superpowers. They just explore bread and butter issues. I need to eat, and
Yes, there will be challenges. This is a very difficult business environment. The government keeps working on how to make business easier.
The first problem to overcome is really just starting, right? We thought about this idea for over 2 years before we even took the first step.
You cannot ignore this country. No, and to be from here, I think is an incredible privilege. Nigeria will be ascendant in my lifetime.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
For many years, we've talked about the need to, essentially diversify our revenue stream away from, the huge dependence on oil revenues. It looks like that is happening now, so that means that we're better.
Hello and welcome to Behind the Headlines, where we bring to you deeper analysis and what's behind the story. Our focus today is on the front page lead on Business Day, which is on budget priorities under scrutiny as finance outspaces growth ministries. Now co-authored by Onyinye Nwachukwu, which is Business Day's Abuja Bureau Chief. And she joins us this afternoon to just take us through the stories real quick. Nigeria's latest budget reveals a troubling tilt. We're seeing finance and debt obligations crowding out growth ministries, raising questions about sustainability, about job creation, and whether fiscal choices align with long-term economic development goals. Of course, Onyinye joins us this afternoon on this story. Onyinye, please take us through what specific budget lines drove finance-related spending above growth ministries, and what it does reveal about Nigeria's fiscal priorities. Just tell us about the story.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me. The story that we did, like you rightly said, our lead story, BusinessDay today, speaks to how increasingly, government is, federal government, so to speak, is over the years sort of prioritized funding debt over prioritizing growth sectors or growth ministries, and we saw that first of all in the 2026 budget, which is still at the National Assembly. About 16.87 or thereabout, for the finance ministry, and we that raised some questions around what would have. Of course, last year it was also like that, and we went to check, and we saw that over the years, that has been the trend, especially from 2026, but that's been a spike since 2020, then to 2026, and we began to look into the numbers to see what has happened, what has changed, why are the numbers showing that, and we saw that as the allocation for finance ministry was increasing, so also deficit, or debt service, was also increasing. So there's now a correlation between, of course, debt service, and then the budget for finance ministry. And of course, like you rightly said, or like you asked, so what are those line items? So you have things like, of course, debt service, apart from the normal recurrent personnel and all of those. So the key issues we're looking at really include things like items like debt service. Of course, we have other obligations like fiscal obligations like a sinking fund and all of those. And then after doing our research and putting everything together, we saw that debt service, like we've had a lot of, so many times, has been a problem. And then we had to correlate that and put out the story. And that what that means is that of course, there's also statutory transfers, which are, obligatory. They're statutory. So you have to, set money aside for those lines like with the National Assembly and all of those before you could begin to consider other things. Those are some of the items that make up a finance ministry's budget, and then other funding for other agencies like GMO and all that under the finance ministry. So what that now means is that federal government's fiscal priorities have shifted, gradually over the years from funding growth to managing fiscal survival, which is a very, very, very big challenge. And if nothing is done about it, I know that government is doing so much around trying to generate revenue and all that. But if government doesn't move real quick, to do something around it, it's really going to be a huge, huge problem, going forward. 15 trillion for debt allotted for debt service in 2026 budget. That's so much. I think last year it was about 14 point something trillion, and it keeps increasing like that. So we thought, this trend is bad, for the country, especially that is looking for growth, that is looking for jobs, that is looking to stabilize the economy, and then something has to be done about it. So that's in a nutshell what prompted that story, and that's typically what this story speaks to.
Next question to you will be that with the rise in debt servicing now that we've seen, would you say this is the biggest threat to development spending, and how would you say Nigeria found itself where we are now?
Okay, sure. Debt servicing, like we know. So if, for instance, the budget for 2026 is the entire package is about 58 point something trillion, and then you have 15.9 trillion allocated for proposed, to service debt. that means that that's about, if I'm more than a quarter of your budget. And what that means is that for every 4 naira that you want to spend, a naira has to go into debt service. That shows you how critical the situation is, right now. Like I mentioned, debt service has accelerated in the last 10 years, and especially in the last 5 years, to where we are, today. So debt service is a real issue. And of course, obligation is obligation. Government doesn't want to default, and we're not saying that government should default, but what we're saying is that government should find a way, to prioritize even debt accumulation in a way that it's easy to settle these obligations, and then also keep growth in check. Because at the end of the day, what we're looking for is growth. What we're looking for, our jobs. What we're looking for is just a betterment of the citizens. And if we don't get that, what is the budget all about in the first place?
Of these growth ministries would you say are the most affected? What project or sectors are most likely to suffer immediate impact?
Of course, like we do know, like we have, that's a chart. I'm not sure we'll be able to put that up now, especially just for 2026, to give you a sense of what has happened. So ministries like, okay, thank you so much. So ministries like, whether it's agriculture, whether it's even works, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's power. We know where we are today when it comes to power. We're still struggling for a population of well over 200 million. We're still struggling to even hit 5,000 megawatts of power. You know that we should know what that means. So we're still struggling. Yet, if those funding, if government is able to rechannel those, free up, those funding, and then rechannel to these other growth sectors, like I mentioned. We have agriculture. We know where we are in terms of food inflation and all that, even though inflation is abating, but it's still high. Works is the Ministry of Works is there. Ministry of Power is there. Education is there. Increasingly, Nigerians are seeking, better academics, better education. Sorry, abroad. It's because if we do not, so to speak, have those institutions or that kind of system, that measures up with what to get abroad and all that. But if we have them here, people will stay here and read and pursue their education and all that. We also have health. We also know what it means around medical tourism, how much we lose annually on medical tourism and all that. So if this funding, we think, government can rechannel some of this funding into these critical sectors, education, health, agriculture, power, and all that, into these sectors. What it will then do is that, of course, jobs will be created, economy will be stable. Not that things are a bit stable now, but we need to move at an accelerated pace. So those are the sectors that are badly affected, with this kind of trend.
I'm going to ask my final question, which is around policy adjustment. Which of these policy adjustments would you say the government can make to rebalance the budget towards productivity and long-term development?
Okay, thank you so much. And a few of them. First of all, beginning with revenue generation. Like I pointed out earlier, another government is doing so much around generating non-oil revenue. So whether it's a form of tax, and that's also why the tax reform has been commended and all that. And though there are still issues around that, people are saying that or demanding that implementation of the reforms should be done with a human face, in a way that Nigerians first of all understand what they're supposed to do, and then if they understand what they're supposed to do, they can now buy into the policy, buy into the project, move on with the government. And we also want to see that even the taxes that are collected are deployed into development-based projects and all that. That is one, revenue generation. We cannot overstate that. It needs to be, it needs to come up. We we need to revamp that area as quickly as possible. That is one. And then secondly, we also think that debt management should be prioritized, to favor cheap concessional loans other than the commercial costly loans like we know it today. I know that government is doing so much. They've tried over the years, to rejig the debt plan, borrowing plan, to say, oh, so we'll go to multilaterals like the World Bank and all that, to get cheap loans, because those loans come with very comfortable conditions. They are tenor longer and all that. So it will give you breathing space, to be able to, or even to be able to rejig your own strategy and all that. And those kind of funding that you get from concessional funding always come their development of project base. So you know where right from onset, where those monies are going into, not that you just borrow money and then you sit back and then begin to, think or strategize how to use the money, or maybe even use it to either refinance loans or to repay back loans, or to pay salaries, use it to fund recurrent expenditure and all that. So that is what we think that government needs to, as a matter of priority, do that more. Go for concessional loans, cheaper loans that would help reduce the level of debt, the cost, of course, and then level of debt service. Then the third thing, we think is that capital spending should be better implemented and should be prioritized. Better implementation, is that so when you budget for a project, let that project, or the money, the funding be meant for that project. Let it, we don't want to hear situations where monies meant for this are now deployed for this and all that. We know, of course, the story around constitutional funding this year only. In 2026, about 198 billion has been projected for constituency project implementation. So who monitors? Those are the things. So if you do not monitor, if those kind of projects are not monitored, how do you get the impact? PPPs. Over the years, we've had so much government comes up to say, we're going to do all this, we're going to prioritize, we're going to begin to, involve the private sector more. But we don't see that, happen, so much. So these are some of the things that we think, should happen. And then it builds reform savings effectively. So much has been saved. You hear stories around, amounts that are going around, like 6 trillion, 10 trillion has been saved. But who is telling us how those monies have been deployed? So those are some of the things that we think that government needs to begin to look at, and then begin to work or retool to ensure that every penny, every naira that we generate, counts for the betterment, of the citizens.
All right, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Behind the Headlines was truly insightful. You just breaking down that story for us this afternoon. Thank you very much, Onye Nwachuku, Business Day Abuja Bureau Chief. Thank you. You've been watching the Behind the Headlines right here on Business Day Television. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Elizabeth Musa.